I think that a lot of people think Joey Aguilar will absolutely walk in the front door at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. I'm sorry, not Lindsey Nelson Stadium, but at Neyland Stadium and be the starter. I'm not so sure. Caleb, where do you stand on this?
I think Joey Aguilar is the favorite. I think he's the favorite for one key reason, and I'm gonna tell a dirty little secret here that I think is out. I don't think they ever. I think Jake Merklinger maybe Jake Merklinger is ahead of George MacIntyre right now. I don't think they ever want to be in a position where Jake Merklinger leads on the depth chart because I don't think Josh Heupel sees a future with Jake Merklinger. I think if you put Jake Merklinger as the starter as a sophomore, you're all in with him for the next 2 or 3 years. And I think Josh Heupel thinks George MacIntyre or maybe Faison Brandon when he comes in next year will surpass him. So Josh Heupel doesn't want to be in a situation where he has to start Jake Merklinger over George MacIntyre because that means he's starting Jake Merklinger over George MacIntyre for the next 3 years. So he'd much rather start Joey Aguilar this year and then let George MacIntyre, develop for another year, take another step forward, and then next year George MacIntyre wins the job. I think that's the secret game Josh Heupel's playing, and that's why he really, really wanted Joey Aguilar. So I think Josh Heupel's going to up. I think Joey Aguilar is the favorite to start because Josh Heupel wants him to start right now. Josh Heupel expects him to start, and we know Josh Heupel with Joe Milton's situation. The guy he wants to start in spring ball is the guy who's going to start in the fall, no matter what they do in fall camp.
Well said. Today's tough question: who will start the opening game for Tennessee? That's pretty simple. Here we go.
Today's tough question. Boom. You heard that. Now take it. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Represented by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com, Tennessee's trial attorney. From the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln Studio, East Tennessee's #1 volume and customer service dealer, Ted Russell Ford and TedRussellLincoln.net. Now to the Dave Hooker Show on Off the Hook Sports.
All right, let's make it the poll question. Just simple. Who will start for Tennessee at quarterback? Is it Joey Aguilar or anyone else? Caleb, I'm in the minority. I'll take anybody else at this point. And I say that not because, and I've looked at tape of all these guys, and I've seen them in person in some cases. But with Joey Aguilar, I just think there's an incredible challenge coming in at quarterback, trying to be a leader, trying to manage an offense, trying to make all the right throws with just 3 months before 2 months before preseason camp, 3 months before the opening. So if you make today's tough question, will it be Joey Aguilar or someone else? I'll take someone else, but I think I'm in the minority.
So the poll question I set up is, should Joey Aguilar be the favorite to start for the Vols? Yes or no? And I'm going to go with Joey Aguilar. I'm going to go with Joey Aguilar. And there's a few things about Joey Aguilar that make me think he will win the starting job. One, Josh Heupel went after him. Josh Heupel showed with Joe Milton he doesn't care if you missed all of spring ball. If you're his guy, he's going to make you the starter. Two, and this is key, for a quarterback with Joey Aguilar, this system is really, really, really easy to pick up for a quarterback no matter what. It takes not that long. Joey Aguilar is a veteran quarterback. So more important than picking up the system, I think it's more important for him to just establish a rapport with the receivers because they have to be on the same page. And Joey Aguilar has to assume they're going to run a certain route on their option routes based on what the defensive coverages show. So that's what he's got to do. And he's got a summer to do workouts with the receivers to make sure that happens. And then three, the biggest drawback for Joey Aguilar to a lot of people are his interceptions. But I want to point this out. I think I've said it before. Josh Heupel's offense is designed in such a way that it's really hard to throw interceptions. There's not that. I mean, most of the Dave, aren't like 90% of Josh Heupel passes either quick screens, horizontal passes, or passes over the top down the field?
Well, theoretically, I think that they should have run more patterns over the middle last year, but they didn't have a guy named Hendon Hooker, and I think they were a bit insecure. Anytime you throw over the middle, there's a much greater chance for interception. Speaking of, I want to ask you about that gunslinger mentality. Is that what Tennessee needs? if they go in that regard, because Joey Aguilar is definitely that sort of quarterback. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Why Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott. Caleb, I'm talking to you this morning about Tennessee's quarterback situation, and you used the term gunslinger with Aguilar. The term gunslinger scares me to death. Why is Tennessee okay with a gunslinger at quarterback in this offense? Thoughts?
A couple of reasons. I think one, like I said, I don't think Josh Heupel's offense has a lot of plays in the playbook that give the quarterback a chance to throw interceptions. There's just not a lot of chances there to throw interceptions given how it's designed. Also, and this is a big one, gunslingers are willing to let their receivers go up and make plays. And according to Will West and according to some other people we've had on our show, Nico Iamaleava was very hesitant to throw to a receiver who was covered last year. Now you got a guy in Chris
Milton was as well.
Yeah, Joe Milton was as well. You got a guy in Chris Brazzell who could win one-on-one battles all day. You have another guy in Brew McCoy who lost a step last year. Absolutely. But you could throw the ball to him on some curl routes or underneath routes and let him just make a play with the ball in his hands with his physical gifts. Nico never wanted to do that. I think he would get frustrated that he couldn't hit every big pass over the top. And I don't think Joey Aguilar cares about hitting every big pass over the top. I think he's more than happy to throw a fade and say, "Hey, Chris Brazzell, here you go. Try and grab it." And that's why I think it's okay.
You would hope so, but he did throw a lot of interceptions. Does that concern you?
No, not for this offense. Not for Heupel's offense. Heupel's offense, again, makes it borderline impossible to throw that many interceptions because he doesn't scheme a lot of plays. Even if they do add over the middle plays, Dave, you and I both know there's not going to be that many. I mean, Heupel's offense is horizontal and over the top. Those are the only pass plays you really have in this system. So
okay, if Joey Aguilar doesn't work out or a quarterback to be determined doesn't work out, and their middle of the pack SEC rating in quarterback passing, how concerned are you moving forward as a Tennessee fan? Because at some point, you should tab your next quarterback. And I know NIL and Nico and all that stuff got messed up, but you should have your guy ready way before May/June, shouldn't you?
You should. And look, there could be a quarterback switch. Heupel is at least willing to make a switch if a quarterback's not working out. He, again, showed that with Milton and Hooker, although, again, Milton had to get hurt for that to happen. But Heupel could make a switch. I'll say with Aguilar, I don't know if there's as much a concern. If Aguilar nor Merklinger is working out in the system, like if he makes the switch and Merklinger is not working out, then there's a big concern about the Heupel offense in general. You know, Dave, I said when you were out, and I wanted your thoughts on this, I think Heupel and Tennessee are overspending on quarterbacks. You know, a lot of the quarterback play is Heupel's system. I would spend more money on weapons and skill players, honestly.
Well, maybe they learned. I mean, I think you're on to something. Maybe they learned the lesson the hard way by Nico moving on. Maybe he wanted $3-4 million a year, and they said, "Nah, I think that's the best idea." It certainly appears that way. Now, it would be easy for me to rip Josh Heupel and say, "Hey, man, what are you doing here? Why is this guy not blocking that guy or throwing that guy or that?" But this is all brand new with the NIL, Caleb. I mean, I can't really knock anybody. Alabama's begging for money, for goodness sake. I can't knock anybody in a brand new system that involves cash to players.
Yeah, you have to moneyball it to a certain degree. You have to figure out exactly where to spend and what puts you ahead of the curve.
But I mean, I guess the question I'm asking you, if you screw up in the opening years of NIL, now moving forward, I mean, we're in the era. But if you screw up in those first 3 or 4 years, That's not an indictment of you as a coach. You were never trained to manage budgets.
No, but part of this, it is an indictment of you as a talent evaluator, and Josh Heupel's missed on talent evaluations. I'll say it to you. I'll put it to you this way. So here's what we found out. According to reports in On3, Nico Iamaleava was going to make about $2.4 million for Tennessee this year. Joey Aguilar, Tennessee got him for $1.2 million. Now, here's the question: and a lot of Tennessee fans don't want to hear this, but this is the truth. Nico Iamaleava this year would have been better than Joey Aguilar would be for Tennessee this year. Can we agree on that?
Agreed. The question is how much better, right?
How much better? I don't think $1.2 million better in an NIL budget. I think saving $1.2 million, getting Joey Aguilar for $1.2 million is much more valuable than Nico Iamaleava at $2.4 million. Much, much more valuable. Land.
I don't know that I can go there. I think if Nico's good and happy, I think Tennessee's a better program. Would you argue that?
No, I wouldn't argue that, but I do think it's a problem if they look. I do think it's a problem if he's stretching their NIL budget. They need talent elsewhere. They've needed talent elsewhere for a while. And last year, what was Nico's biggest problem? The biggest issue with Tennessee last year was they didn't have a receiver who could dictate coverage because Brew McCoy, as we found out, had never recovered from that broken leg. All of our suspicions were confirmed when he medically retired from football because he didn't get drafted. So that was Nico's biggest, and he had 2 tackles that were hurt at the beginning of the year. A lot of that wasn't his fault. So I would say that part of the reason he was having those issues, though, is Tennessee was spending too much money on him. I mean, it's the whole NFL saga. You know, Aaron Rodgers fans complained for years that he didn't have enough help in Green Bay. Well, they were giving him all the money. How could they afford to give him help? Honestly.
Good gracious. Shouldn't we ultimately know the budget? I mean, this is a public institution. I want to move on the topic, but how in the world is there not a statement released every summer, late June, early July, just like the budget, in which we know who's making what? Shouldn't we know that?
Well, because this isn't coming from Tennessee's budget. This is coming from it. I mean, again, when we talk about budget, we're not talking about an official budget. Remember this. We're talking about how much money boosters are willing to spend on players in endorsements. That's not public, technically. Tennessee's just helping facilitate those endorsements.
Okay. We could quibble on that. Those are publicly traded companies for the most part. I mean, I would want to know where my money is going.